So I am currently sitting on top of the I-joist that I just recently purchased and paid $300 for the crane to deliver to put the roof on my 48-foot tall multi-generational passive ICF house. And as the title of this video says, that I wanted to share with you why I wanted to build a multi-generational home and also cover why my dream is now dead. And so we'll split it up into two different parts. So one of the reasons why I wanted to build a multi-generational home is because, as you can see from this view behind my back shoulder, the valley that I live in is just absolutely gorgeous. Moved here when I was 11 years old, have grown up in this valley, have moved all over the US, but keep coming back to this valley because, well, it's home. It's stunning, it's beautiful. This is where family is. Let me go ahead and show you real quick, just a 360. So you've got Mount Timpanogos right there. You've got the Cascade Mountains right there. You have Squaw Peak and Rock Canyon right there. The hiking around here is just absolutely amazing. You've got the Payson Mountains down there. Can't really see it, but because of the inversion, because it is pretty cold. Got Mount Nebo over there. You have the West Mountains. Oh, and I am so excited. So actually, I am excited. This is my first time actually being at this level. I don't know if you can see it, but I can see the reflection off of Utah Lake. So I was hoping that I would actually be able to see the lake from up here, but that reflection just confirmed it. Then you've got the West Mountains off to obviously the west. Utah Lake covers that entire area. And then to the north, you can see the point of the mountain. On the other side of the point of the mountain is Salt Lake City. So anyways, as you can see from the views, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to build right here. So let's talk about the whole reason for the multi-generational aspect. So over my shoulder at the point of the mountain is what is being referred to as Silicon Slopes. So Silicon Slopes has been both a blessing and a curse for our valley. It's a blessing because there's been a lot of tech companies like Adobe and Microsoft and all sorts of Qualtrics. Actually, headquarters of Qualtrics is just down there in the river bottoms right over my shoulder. So we have all sorts of tech companies that have moved in. And with them, they brought a lot of really high-paying jobs. And they also brought a lot of transplants from California, where those people were able to sell their homes for an insane amount of money, dump it into the homes here, which has caused the cost of living, the cost of housing to just get completely out of control. In fact, most people don't realize it, but Utah is actually the third least most affordable state in the entire nation. So Hawaii's number one, California's number two, Utah comes in at number 3. So we're ahead of New York. We're ahead of all those East Coast states. And one of the reasons why is because the cost of homes is completely flat out of control compared to what we've always been used to paying. And our wages just haven't kept up. So going back to the multi-generational aspect of it, if you want to be able to live in this valley anymore, the only way that you can afford to really do it, unless you have one of those super really high paying jobs, is to consolidate your resources and go into it with the family. So also just, yeah. So let's go back to my story, my wife's and I's story. We couldn't afford to buy a home in this valley. And so our plans were we were actually going to build a tiny home. We'd watched hundreds, if not thousands of hours of videos. We'd spent hundreds of hours on our design. We were getting ready to build, but we needed some place to park the tiny home. So I approached my parents, who had one of the last vacant lots on this particular road, and said, hey, when we build the tiny home, would we be able to park it on this lot? And my parents very graciously said, why don't you skip the tiny home? And instead, why don't you go ahead and build a multi-generational home on the property? So my wife and I made it a matter of prayer and thought long and hard about it. We decided to go ahead and pull the trigger and do so. And so we changed direction. We spent hundreds and hundreds of hours redesigning things, and took all of the principles that we learned from tiny home to try to cram as much as possible into this particular home design. We took it into our city. They looked at it and they said, there's 5 kitchens. And I said, yeah, of course there's 5 kitchens because it's a multi-generational home. And they said, well, here in our code, you can only have a total of 2 kitchens. And so I thought, well, that really stinks. And so I went back to my wife and we decided to completely start from scratch again, redesigned the home so that we would stay within the regulations of our city and just have 2 kitchens. So I went from being a square home to a rectangle home. Had to spend a couple $1,000s more to tear out the pool that had been here. We were looking forward to having that pool, but had to tear it out to do the redesign. Went back to the city and showed them the new plans with our 2 kitchens. 1 kitchen is on the first floor, 1 kitchen is on the second floor, and the city said, yep, you can do that. In terms of the height, we have a height restriction here. We can only build 35 feet above grade. And so I asked the city about that, and they said, yep, as long as you don't go above 35 feet, you're fine. I said, well, how far below grade can I go? And they said, you can dig your way to China if you can figure out how. So they didn't care how many levels we had below grade. And so we were able to, I worked with my excavator, maxed out his machine, got it down to where we have 2 levels below grade. So 13 feet below grade and 35 feet above grade. So that's how we ended up with, this is a total of 12,000 square feet when you include the crawl space. That's, I say crawl space, it's actually 6'2". Down on the first level, and then the basement, and then the first, second, third level, and then this rooftop deck. So why did we build something this big? Well, it goes back to the multi-generational aspect of it. I needed to build a home that would be able to fit my parents and would be able to fit my wife and I. Well, we for sure don't need 12,000 square feet. But I wasn't just thinking about my parents and my wife and I was also thinking about my kids, because I'd really like for my kids to have the opportunity to enjoy the same benefits that I have had growing up in this amazing valley. But in today's day and age, people who are just starting out, they can't afford houses. We have a housing shortage here in Utah. There's not enough construction workers, builders, condos, starter homes. It's just not going in. So if it was going to happen, I was going to need to make it happen myself. And so we've designed this so that we can have both of our adult kids, if they choose to, stay in this valley, and if they choose to raise their families here, then they'll both have access to 4 bedrooms and 2.5 bath, basically condos each. Now, the one downside is because of the city regulations, they're going to have to share a kitchen, but they don't have to share a dining room. They don't have to share a living room. Same thing for my parents and I. With my wife down on the first floor, we're going to have to share a kitchen, but we don't have to share the dining room, the living rooms, the bedrooms. And we're also designing the first level to be an aging in place level, because when, I call this YouTube channel Legacy Views. You understand the views part. The legacy is because I look at this as a legacy that is going to stay in our family for many, many generations. This is a 500-year home. I built this with my own bare hands. 99% of all the blocks, all the ICF blocks that you see, I stacked them. I filled every single one of them. The over 1 million pounds of concrete flowed through my hands, going through the pump truck tube, filling the whole thing up. And so we designed the house to grow with our family, because I happen to live in a city where family is important. It's an important value in this city. And so they've written into their code, into their regulations, that all the family that I am related to, with the exception of cousins, it'd be interesting to know the backstory of why did they exclude cousins. But nonetheless, everybody that I am related to, either by marriage or directly blood related to or adopted, can live in this home. And so I foresee there being many, many of my posterity living in this home. Even if it's not my kids, nieces, nephews, etc., they'll be able to live in this home for many, many generations to come. So that's the reason why it's so large. Obviously, we started off with tiny home plans, okay? We were gonna build something that we could tow. I don't need a McMansion. In fact, down there, I feel bad. I was making fun of the homes down there. My dad looked at me and he's all, what do you think 12,000 square feet is? I said, well, yeah, that's true, but it's kind of different because we're going to have a lot of family living in here with us. So that's the reason why I am building something that's 12,000 square feet. Technically, once we get the greenhouse built on the back of it, it's going to add almost another 1,000 square feet that I get taxed on. But it's going to be 26 feet high, 72 feet long, and we'll be able to grow food year-round. We'll be able to grow tropical food because it's going to be a year-round greenhouse, so I'm excited about that. So hopefully that answers everybody's questions in terms of why I'm building such a large multi-generational home. Now let's get to the other part of the title in terms of why my dream's dead. And I got to be honest with you, I'm having a tough time with this one. Because somebody ended up going to the city and telling the city that I have mentioned that I was super excited about having about this rooftop, having parties up here on this rooftop. As you can see from the slope, so check out that slope over there. It's not a flat roof, but it's pretty close to a flat roof. And because I live in snow country, I had to design the roof in a way so that it would be able to handle the weight of 38 inches of snow. Yeah, 39 inches of snow, which weighs a lot. And so my thought was, hey, if this roof can handle the weight of that much snow, it can handle the weight of a family coming up here to be able to roast marshmallows. It's going to be a standing seam metal roof, so I didn't need to worry about fire stuff, but roast marshmallows around a little pit, to have little Japanese soaking hot tubs. I mean, those things weigh next to nothing. To be able to watch the sunrise and the sunset off of Timpanogos in the back. To be able to have barbecues up here, to be able to lay up here on this deck, and to be able to look up at the stars. Because even though, at least right now in this valley, it's not too much light pollution, I can still see the planets, I can still see the stars. To be able to lay up here with grandchildren, great-grandchildren in years to come, to have been able to point out the different constellations, to be able to watch the phases of the moon, to be able to just come up here and do yoga and meditate. That was my dream. And now that's dead because somebody went to the city and the city talked with the city on the phone, and they said that it's not engineered to have the weight of people up here, which still doesn't make sense to me because it's engineered to have 38 pounds of, actually it is. It's 38 pounds per square foot of snow. 38 pounds per square foot of snow. But the city is like, no, you didn't engineer it to have people up on that roof. So that's the reason why my dream's dead. And anyways, I never really thought that there'd be somebody who would go to the city and try to get this dream of mine shut down, but they did. It is what it is. So the good news is that, as the city code says, they can't get this house shut down because of the fact that I plan on having family members live here. So the home's going to be, it's 1 million pounds of concrete. It's not going anywhere. Still going to go ahead and continue to bust my butt every day. Next week it's going to be 6 degrees in the morning when I get here, 7 degrees the next day. I'm going to be out here making it happen because I need to finish this multi-generational home so that we can afford to stay in this valley. So if you've made it this far, you've probably already subscribed. But if not, be sure to like and subscribe so you can follow along on this crazy journey. So I build this multi-generational passive ICF house, and thanks for watching.